While a large majority of the power moons in Mario Odyssey are relatively easy to get, there's definitely a few challenging ones. In terms of difficulty, I've decided to not include any hard to find ones simply because the challenge is just finding it and not so much collecting it.
Then maybe you should make a top 10, a separate one.
So these power moons take a considerate amount of skill to collect, and with that said, let's go! Alright, ladies and gents, the Sand Kingdom is home to the largest amount of power moons out of all the other kingdoms. Well, the Mushroom Kingdom technically has more, but half of those is just talking to Toadette, so that doesn't really count. Of the 89 moons, one of them barely cracked this list. Hopping onto this great pipe leads you to some sinking ruins. On your left, you'll find a spark pylon that you'll use to zap yourself to the main course of the stage. Wait, this thing is called a spark pylon? Huh. Anyway, when you arrive, the floor will immediately start falling, so right off the bat, you're under a lot of pressure to get moving. And what better way to
I honestly don't think about that. Just get right on.
Go fast than to use the rocket flower. Now, using this is already in itself a bit challenging. Running around with it is manageable, but it takes some practice. You'll have to make a couple
Try to avoid use of joystick as much as possible. At least on the straight lines.
of jumps to grab at least one more of these flowers. Otherwise, you won't make it to the end of this tilted maze. Yeah, you have to run up the side of this maze while blazing full throttle. If you miss a flower and run out of boost, well, say hello to the poison. It's not
In other words, death.
too bad if you've gotten the hang of it, but if you want the harder moon in this course, you have to grab a key. The key just so happens to be across a narrow path with openings on the sides. I can't tell you how many times I've missed grabbing the key. It's the most infuriating thing. When you do grab it, you'll simply make your way to the top and finish the course. This one isn't going to make you pull your hair out of your scrotum, but it feels very, well, how do I say this, uncomfortable to collect. The Lake Kingdom. Man, who doesn't love this one? That soft, peaceful music brings a calm soothe to my mind. The water is fun to swim around in thanks to the Cheep Cheeps, and to top it off, there's a section where you use a frog to hop over waves of poison. Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it did. And that's a negative sin, by the way.
I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with me on this one. I mean, heck, there's clips of people doing this without the frog. But with or without Froggy, this moon is kind of nasty to collect. The platforms you're given to jump on are so puny, there's not much room for error. You can hit the poison once with the frog and live, but don't expect to be around much longer than that. There's two main sections to clear, and when you think it's all over, there just so happens to be another power moon in the horizon. What makes this one so hard is that the waves are coming towards you instead of on the side. That forces you to make harder and quicker jumps, which
I honestly think that's easier.
isn't the easiest to do since the frog jumps like he's on the goddamn moon. Like I said, some people may have an easier time with this star without the frog, but I still struggle with this every time. And I also don't like how the game teases you with all these gold rings and coins on the platforms. That's just not nice. Try and distract me. Ugh.
Dude, they save you life. You die. If you die, you lose 10 coins. They give you more than 10 coins to collect.
Like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, there's a boss rush in Odyssey that really grinds on me gears.
You mean just Galaxy 2, right?
The first power moon in the dark side is number 8 on this list, and what you'll have to do is defeat all 4 of the Broodals and finish by annihilating the giant Robo-Brood suit, all in one go. That's right, you get 3 hit points for 5 boss fights. That might not sound that bad considering the Broodals aren't that challenging, but making just one mistake and getting hit once makes it all the harder to get through. Thankfully, the game was nice to offer you 1 heart before the 5th and final boss, but it's just that, 1 extra hit point. I find myself struggling the most with Topper because the hats he
I struggle with him the most too. I'm gonna give you a negative sin for that.
throws are spammed all over the field. And on top of that, he'll spin around on the ground with all the hats on if you get too close. Since he's the first boss you take on, getting hit even once really stresses you out since you know how many bosses you have to take out with no way of refilling your health. And I don't really like that there's moon gravity when fighting them either, because the timing is a little bit different for hitting the Broodals on the head when you've already gotten used to fighting them without the gravity. Screw this moon and its obsession with bunnies. Hey look, we're at the dark side again! And trust me, we won't really be leaving this kingdom much since it's one of the last ones you unlock. Looking under this rock, you'll find some platforms and a blue door that requires a hat for you to enter. I always hate the levels where you aren't allowed to use your hat. It makes me feel so useless. It's the same feeling when you enter a secret stage in Mario Sunshine, but at least you get that head-bopping music.
Okay, that's an odd reference to make. But okay.
So here, we have to run across a bunch of invisible platforms while piranha plants are spitting poison at you. Go figure. I guess the nice thing about the poison is you can kind of see where the platforms are, or at least get an idea of their scope, but it's too bad for you. You don't have your hat to clear the poison away. Your only option is to pick up some rocks and throw them into piranha plants' mouths so they choke to death, and then you kick them in the face so hard their head explodes. What makes this challenging is you need to throw the rocks fast and quickly, otherwise the entire stage will just be a poison party. And again, you can't clear any of the poison from your path. You have to long jump and dive over everything. And at the end, you gotta smack up 3 giant piranha planes to finish. This moon doesn't make me mad because of its difficulty, I just don't like how I can't clear up the poison mess. It just feels dirty and wrong. You knew this was coming, the infamous jump rope girls from the Metro Kingdom. To get the harder power mode, you need to jump rope 100 times in a row. That might not sound too bad, but every 5 jumps, the rope speeds up until 50. At the top speed, you're practically jumping with frame-perfect inputs to make it by. Even the slightest change in your jump will throw off everything, and you can easily lose doing so. This one is a bit higher on the list because I can usually find a groove after a few tries to get the moon I need. But
Really? And maybe you should clarify high on the list. I know what you mean by high on the list, but maybe you could clarify that a little more.
even with that, I have to put 110% of my focus into jumping because...
Dude. Meaning you cannot focus on jumping. Meaning more focus than you actually have. Seriously?
Because you can't mess up anything. I'm aware that by throwing your hat at the parrot a certain way and glitching out the camera, you can get unlimited jumps by just standing above the rope, but come on, that's cheating. I'm not gonna let that affect this list's outcome. Like seriously, be a man and do this without breaking the rules. If you cheat, I'll see you.
Well, actually, I honestly think the glitch is kind of hard to pull off anyway. So I don't think that's really cheating. Could be wrong.
I see everything.
No, you don't.
What a shocker! We're at the dark side again. At this point, we might as well just head over to Darth Vader's house and have some coffee. Terrible Star Wars joke out of the way, a hole in the rock leads to a door where you, once again, aren't allowed to use your cap. Following is a terrifying rush to get from one road to the next. You'll step on P-switches, which brings up long stretches of road. You have to briskly get across without making mistakes. The best option is, of course, to roll, but a lot of the time you'll be forced to dive up platforms to maintain a fast speed. Bonking is your worst nightmare. If you do bonk near the beginning of hitting a P-switch, just head on back and wait to repeat the cycle, because the amount of time you're allotted is incredibly little. You have to always be moving or the road's gonna disappear on you. The ticking timer doesn't help matters either. It makes me feel more stressed to get to the end, which leads me to more likely make mistakes. The power moon you have to get is near the end across a bunch of platforms that fall when you touch them, which is even harder to get through. And it's not even that the jumps themselves are that challenging, it's just doing them quickly without bonking is the real challenge. In a way, you're basically forced to be a speedrunner whether you like that or not. Oh god, I whimper and feel dread when thinking about this moon. In Mario 64, there were these little slide levels where Mario slides down his butt really fast, and it was really fun. Well, Odyssey's version has you playing as a bouncy marshmallow which only moves by jumping. If you push jump as
That is not sliding at all.
he hits the ground, he'll get a speed boost. Yeah, it's as awkward as it sounds.
I don't care about how awkward it is personally.
Some people have really grown to like this style of racing, but honestly, I really despise it. No matter how much I play this and try to get used to the controls, I just don't enjoy it at all. There's a few courses of this in the game, and this is definitely the hardest one. There's lots of hills and slopes, and jumping in the wrong spot can cause you to lose a lot of your speed. The Class S race in particular doesn't allow for much of any mistakes. If you aren't going...
This is why I think the moon is hard. Because of how much precision it requires.
Fast the whole time, then someone will pass you. Oftentimes, I can't even get into first until I'm on the second or third lap. And to make matters...
I think that's actually how it's okay. I think it's actually supposed to be that way. As long as you end up in first place at the end, it is okay.
Worse, there's some snow that'll slow you down if you don't touch it.
Maybe you should just hit the retry button if you hit the snow. That's what I do.
I just hope that the inevitable Odyssey 2 doesn't have this type of racing in it.
Do you even know about Mario Odyssey 2? Does anyone know about that? If it's even coming out at all?
Because I honestly hate it. And here's another Power Moon that you knew would crack this list. The darker side was made to function similar to the perfect run in Galaxy 2 or Champions Road in Mario 3.
Okay, I'm bewildered that this is not number 1. Period.
3D World. In some ways it does, and in some ways it doesn't. Like those stages, the entire level breaks down into several sections with no checkpoints. You'll start by taking out this alien spaceship called UFO, well if you want to jumping over lava, to turning into lava bubbles, and it goes on, and on, and on. If there's one thing to say, this is one of the longest Mario levels of all time. It just never ends. And you might be wondering, why isn't this number 1?
Yes, I am wondering.
Well, the answer to that is simple. The game is nice to you. If you do decide to take out UFO,
which is very hard to do. Like, seriously, that's hard to do. For me, at least.
he gives you a life up heart. Talking to the Sphinx can give you one too. So basically, you'll always have 6 hit points.
No, not always.
And that's not all. There's quite a few hearts to refill your life bar along the way.
Quite a few. Not many, though. But a few.
Even though you'll probably get hit by some things here and there, you're given so much extra health that it almost doesn't even matter. But like I said, this level is still challenging.
And it deserves number 1 on the list.
It's just easier than I would have expected. I know with gliding you can cheat and fly all the way to the very end with Bowser and skip the hardest section in the game, but you aren't supposed to do that. I guess if you don't consider that cheating, since it is—
Wait, that's the hardest section? I disagree.
Is easy to do, that's fine, but this list is based off the intended routes you're supposed to take. Moving on, this section with all these clouds and rainbow porcupines and fire circles
That is the hardest section.
are the bane of my existence. You're
using a line that equals Peach used.
given this small platform that moves incredibly slow, and you basically have to avoid/kill all these guys while avoiding the fire circles, and that's a lot easier said than done. On my first playthrough and even the ones after, I always find myself struggling with this section. It gets so intense near the end because there's like a million things you have to avoid. If we weren't given health at all for this stage, then this section alone would put this at number 1. And the last thing you'll tackle is this part with Bowser, which honestly isn't that bad. You just scratch at some rocks and, there's some rolling towards you and they're easy to avoid. It's whatever, and you're freaking given health at the beginning of that too. So yeah, Darker Side should have just been called Lighter Side, even though it can kick my butt. If you thought jump roping was annoying, wait until you try the volleyball.
No, jump roping is more annoying to me than this one.
Yes, in the Seaside Kingdom, there's this volleyball game where you have to volleyball 100 times in a row. What makes this one so grueling is how long it takes. The ball moves at a snail's pace at first.
Well, I mean, he is a snail.
Like, seriously, it takes like 5 years before—
Whoa, hold up. That is way over-exaggeration. That's like way more than you use on your old Mario 64 top 10. Remember when you said you spent like 3 hours on a certain star or whatever? 5 years. That is far, far, far more exaggerating than 3 hours.
It picks up speed. But before you know it, the ball moves at the speed of light.
Oh, another exaggeration.
And you basically have to throw your hat to hit the ball. So the game turns into
now try to follow the shadows a little bit. Don't just stand there.
throwing your hat accurately with no mistakes. I've heard people try a trick where they only use the hat and move Mario off the field, but I don't really find that much easier. And when you mess up, starting over just drags on because it takes forever for the ball to pick up speed again. So not only is it one of the hardest moons to get in the game, but also one of the longest and most tedious. Now, if you've played through this entire game and have gotten all the power moons, you probably have a good idea what number 1 is.
For me, Grammarly is akin to a writing assistant.
It's our editor on site. It's his site.
Home sweet home, Dark Side. Breakdown Road actually makes me want to break down and cry. Like a lot of the other power moons in this game, you aren't given access to your hat, making platforming a lot trickier. What you'll need to do is run to the end, jump down below, wait for the bonsai build to notice you, and then you'll long jump across these teeny tiny platforms consecutively till the end. My god, did they really space out these platforms. This almost feels like a Kaizo level, like I'm not even kidding. Your long jumps really do need to be frame perfect from start to finish. Most of the time, I'll jump too early and bonk, or I'll fall off the platform because I waited too long to jump. Since you don't have your hat, there's no opportunity to correct yourself, and you can't capture the bonsai.
I think the hardest part is the fact that they don't give a checkpoint right at that part.
Bill. And if you wait too long, the bonsai bill will just hit you. I seriously hate this power moon. Like, it's not even worth my time. But I'm the guy that has 100% every Mario game. Why do I do this to myself?
That's a good thing, right?
But with all that said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments what you think the hardest power moons are and why.
Darker Side. That is number 1. And whoa, did you change your profile picture a little bit there? Jeez, I liked your old one better. Dude, you should put your old one back. I think I like your old one better.
Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.